Well, good afternoon, and thank you for being here today. I am Dr. Abeni El-Amin, as Dr. Clark has stated, and I represent Project Richochet. We are a community-based and centered public health organization based in Lexington, Kentucky. But before I get too far down through here, I would like to also introduce my contemporary, and he has a special treat for you. Dr. Marks.
If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all men about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait to not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop to build them up with worn out tools. If you can force your heart, nerve, and sinew to serve their turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count on you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son, if.
What you have just heard is some of the art and poetry that we bring into the Bet on You public health campaign. So as we've discussed all day today, and what you do in your daily work lives is to promote the reduction of gambling harm to our community and, of course, statewide. Is there anyone in here that lives outside of Kentucky? Okay, all right, well, we do welcome you as well to our humble state. So gambling harm is often discussed only after it becomes a clinical issue, but prevention requires us to examine the broader environment that shapes its risk. And this is exactly what Project Richochet does, as well as our 39 comrades in arms in public health prevention work in Central Kentucky. Gambling behavior is influenced by culture, economic pressure, trauma exposure, community narratives, and access to opportunity. This afternoon, we'll be talking about and expressing the work of our Bet on You, Reclaim Your Power Gambling Prevention and Awareness campaign. Now, this work could only be possible by the great work of some of the people that are in this room, such as Dr. Clark and Miss Emily Flaith in the back of the room there. They have been ardent supporters of the work that we do, and they have guided us along the process in every single way. And for that, Project Richochet and our team, we are forever grateful.
Thank you.
So before we move on a little too far from here, we want to just talk to you a little bit about who we are. So projectricochet.org, or you can find us at strongertogether.com if you'd like to find out more about our organization. But we are a nonprofit org that focuses on community health, economic education, and youth development. One of my favorite initiatives is the Barbershop and Beauty Salon Initiative. And this is the pathway system that we actually articulate the Bet on You, Reclaim Your Power public health campaign through. This allows us to be in trusted spaces where maybe we just don't have the connections throughout the community that we could. We know that barbers and stylists, they're some of our greatest friends. At times there are pastors, there are sisters, there are brothers, there are friends. Today's presentation will walk you through 3 key ideas. First, we'll examine how gambling risk develops within Kentucky's cultural landscape. Second, we will review the behavioral science that explains why gambling can become addictive. Finally, we will introduce the Bet on You prevention model and discuss how it can be implemented across communities. That is so very, very, very important. Because one of the things, we can sit up here and talk about the science all day long. We can talk about the strategies, but we must at some point talk about the implementation so that we can make the outcomes and the impacts that we so desire to do. Our goal today is not simply to describe a program. It is to explore how prevention professionals can rethink how we approach gambling harm in ways that are culturally relevant, community-centered, and sustainable. Now, I've already introduced myself, and no one really wants to hear much about me. But I will tell you that I do hold a number of sundries degrees. Several of them are PhDs, but I'm most proud of the very fact that both myself as well as Dr. Marks, that we both have and hold the ICGC Level 1 credential. So again, I'm Dr. Abeni El-Amin. This is Dr. Quinton Marks. Dr. Marks, introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Dr. Clark, for the invitation. And certainly it's great to be here, and it is an honor to be here. Again, I'm Dr. Quinton Marks, and I'm born and raised in Kentucky. Matter of fact, Lexington is my home. And came up through the ranks working at a Toyota manufacturing right here in Georgetown, Kentucky. I started my career there and got into manufacturing for many years. So my background has been in manufacturing operations as well as continuous improvement. I am the Vice President of Operations for Project Richochet, and I help with our community development, making sure we're having sustainable programs and ensuring our metrics are aligned to what our community really needs.
So I did mention that, I guess I should mention rather, that I am the president and the chief programming officer, and my background is actually in business. But at Project Ricochet, we really do feel like that is one of the reasons why we do have some success, is because we really do rely on the structure of the organization in order to implement our public health campaigns. But I will step back also. I think maybe one or two of you may know that I teach yoga. I'm a fitness instructor by passion, but I am an instructor of strategic management and organizational development at the collegiate level. But I also have a master's in public health as well, which also allows us to do some of the great work that we do in the community, and also a PhD in pastoral clinical counseling.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about this session and the roadmap for it. To help guide our decisions today, we want to briefly outline the structure of the session and the presentation organized into 5 key sections, and that moves from understanding issues to exploring practical solutions. We will begin with culture and context, because gambling behavior does not occur in isolation. It develops within social environments where certain activities are normalized, celebrated, or framed as harmless entertainment. Kentucky in particular has a long history and a historical relationship with gambling through horse racing traditions, our charity, gaming, sports culture. You know, I'm a diehard Big Blue fan, so it's in the blood, literally. I tell people all the time I bleed blue, so that is the color. Unfortunately, I mean, Western Kentucky, I love them too. Matter of fact, I love all Kentucky schools until they play, my beloved Cats. So yeah, I root for them, man. March Madness, this is our time. All right, segued. Next, we will examine the behavioral and neurological foundations of gambling behavior. Understanding the science behind gambling helps explain why knowledge alone is often insufficient to prevent harmful gambling patterns. Brain reward systems, stress responses, and decision-making processes also influence how individuals respond to gambling opportunities. After establishing this foundation, we will introduce the Bet on You prevention model, which integrates education, financial literacy, trauma-informed engagement, and community-based messaging. The model is designed to reach individuals before gambling harm escalates into addiction or financial crisis. The fourth section of this presentation will focus on ethical practice and referral pathways for prevention professionals. It is important to clarify the boundaries between prevention, education, and clinical treatment while ensuring the individual experiencing harm are connected to appropriate resources. Finally, we will conclude with an interactive discussion and implementation strategy that explore how prevention professionals across Kentucky can adapt and scale these approaches with their own communities. So, Dr. El-Amin, why culture matters.
When we talk about gambling prevention, one of the most important
We look at the gambling pathways in Kentucky. We know horse racing, pari-mutuel or mutual stakes betting, casinos, retail, mobile sports betting is coming online, informal social gambling, youth pathways via gambling, which is the loot box or skins, and of course our beloved golfing. I don't know, do we have any golfers in here? Any golfers? No golfers? We're right beside a golf course. I saw some guys golfing. I'm like, I got to go.
I can't even use my joke.
Can you?
A free power albatross.
Don't say that. It's an albatross, okay? She, gambling. We talk about gambling on the golf course, and she does pretty good when it comes to an unexpected win. Put it that way. Well, just a quick story. My buddy and I, we golf all the time. She rarely golfs, and she beat us both on a par 3, and she called it on albatross, but it's a birdie. And so we were looking at each other like, how did she do that? Anyways, for somebody who doesn't golf at all, to birdie the hole, and here we are playing every day. No, yeah, exactly. That's what we wanted to say. Let's move along. Okay, Kentucky gambling environment has expanded significantly in recent years, creating multiple pathways through which individuals can become involved in gambling activities. Understanding these pathways help prevention professionals identify where risk exposure begins and how it spreads through communities. Historically, gambling in Kentucky was mostly associated with horse racing and pari-mutuel wagering. While those traditional remains prominent, the expansion of sports betting has dramatically changed the accessibility of gambling. Mobile sports betting applications allow individuals to place wagers instantly from their phones, removing many of the barriers that once limited gambling participation. And recently I was talking to one of our barbers, and he did confide that pretty much every day when I asked him, do you hear anything about gambling? He was like, yeah, every day. That's what he said. He says, I had a client that told me, I got to get my bets in before noon. and I've got to get my picks in before noon. And I'm like, and he said this is happening every day. So in addition to formal betting platforms, social informal gambling environments continue to exist. Friendly wagers among friends, workplace betting pools, and online prediction contests can introduce individuals to gambling behaviors that later transition into more structured wagering platforms. Young people are also encountering gambling-like systems through digital gaming environments. Many video games incorporate reward mechanics such as loot boxes or randomized digital items that mimic the reinforcement structures found in gambling. These systems introduce young people to the psychological dynamics of risk and reward long before they reach legal gambling age. For prevention professionals, this expanded landscape presents both challenges and opportunities. The challenges lie in the increased accessibility and normalization of gambling opportunities. The opportunity lies in recognizing that prevention can occur early by addressing risk exposure with digital environments, youth programming, and community conversations before harmful gambling patterns become established. So, how gambling hooks the brain? You know, we talk about intermittent reinforcements of near-miss effects, the dopamine-driven reward cycles, and why knowledge alone doesn't stop playing. To understand why gambling can become addictive, it is helpful to examine how the brain responds to gambling environments. Gambling activates the brain's reward system, particularly through the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, motivation, and reinforcement. One of the most powerful mechanisms used in gambling environments is called intermittent reinforcement. This occurs when rewards are delivered unpredictably rather than consistently. Research has shown that intermittent reinforcement schedules are extremely effective at sustaining behavior because individuals continue engaging in the activity in anticipation of the next reward. And I'll stop there for a second just to say that the hope mechanism that we experience really keeps you in the loop. Sometimes people have done it unexpectedly, like, you know, I had a big win the other day, or I heard somebody, they hit at the casino for $7,500 on the lottery. Now a person thinks they have to go do it because somebody else has done it. And with the online sports betting, especially those in the collegiate level in their dorm rooms, are talking about, hey man, you know, I just won, I just made a big hit. You know, that right there now causes more people to get engaged, be involved, and thinking, oh, I can hit too if he hit. Another important mechanism of the near-miss effect, near-miss occurs when the outcome of the bet appears very close to winning but ultimately results in a loss. Surprisingly, near-miss outcomes can trigger brain responses similar to the actual win. This creates the perception that success is within reach, encouraging individuals to continue playing. These neurological responses help explain why gambling behavior often persists even when individuals experience repeated financial losses. The brain's reward system interprets certain signals as opportunities for future rewards, which can override rational decision-making process. And then stress, trauma, and decision-making. We talk about chronic stress impairs executive function. Economic stress is a biological stressor, and stress narrows options and speeds risk-taking. Another important factor influences gambling behavior is stress. Chronic stress affects both emotional regulation and cognitive decision-making. When individuals experience persistent financial pressure, trauma exposure, or emotional distress, the brain's executive function systems can become impaired. Executive functioning is responsible for planning, impulse control, and evaluating long-term consequences. Under conditions of stress, these functions may weaken, leading individuals to make decisions that prioritize immediate relief rather than long-term stability. Economic stress is particularly important in the context of gambling prevention. For individuals facing financial hardship, gambling may appear to offer a potential pathway towards financial improvement. Even though the probability of winning is extremely low, the emotional appeal of a possible solution can feel powerful during times of desperation. And this is why being in the barbershops and beauty salons is very important, because most people will see their barber or stylist way more than they'll see their doctor, and certainly more than they will see a counselor. Some guys go in their barbershops every week, some goes every 2 weeks, but they'll sit in that chair and discuss all type of things with the barber. And the barber has partnered with Project Richochet as community health workers, as mental health advocates, and to be aware of when somebody is having stress, and sometimes recognizing the stress is suicidal. So that is also one of the key aspects to our prevention. Prevention programs must therefore acknowledge the broader context in which gambling behavior occurs. Rather than framing gambling solely as a risky activity, prevention efforts should address the underlying stressors and vulnerabilities that increase susceptibility to harmful gambling patterns. By incorporating trauma-informed approaches and financial literacy education, prevention programs can support individuals in developing healthier coping strategies and decision-making processes. Beyond biology and stress, other major influences of gambling behavior involves the narratives that communities attach to risk. Across many cultures, risk-taking behaviors are often framed as symbols of confidence, intelligence, and strength. In certain environments, gambling may even be interpreted as a demonstration of strategic thinking or competitive skills, such as in the game of chess. Sports betting often becomes associated with masculinity and social bonding. Friends gather to watch games, discuss the statistics, and place wagers in ways that feel collaborative and entertaining. Like, let's see what color LeBron James' shoes gonna wear tonight. Those type of environments, because the activities is embedded in a stress shared culture ritual, watching sports, it may not initially feel like gambling at all. Instead, it may feel like a natural extension of fandom or competition. And that's one of the dangers of sports gambling online. The problem arises when these narratives obscure the statistical reality of gambling systems. Many individuals believe that knowledge of sports teams, players, or betting strategies give them a meaningful advantage. While knowledge can influence some outcomes, gambling systems are structured to ensure that the house maintains a long-term advantage. This structure imbalance is rarely emphasized within popular media representation of sports betting. Excuse me. I think I was sharing recently, I think with Kim actually, about watching some of the NBA games and how often DraftKings comes on as a commercial. So I believe they've been very strategic. It comes on right before the game starts, comes on again, another advertisement at halftime, and usually towards the end of the game for the next game. So they're constantly in your face. Prevention professionals must therefore address not only the mechanics of gambling, but also the stories communities tell about risk and success. And these stories are often told in our barbershops and beauty salons. When individuals believe gambling demonstrates intelligence or competence, prevention messaging that simply warns about loss may feel disconnected from their lived experience. And that's why you don't walk in with the lab coat, really putting your credentials on your sleeves. You walk in like they would, and you engage in normal conversations in the community. Effective prevention conversations instead encourage individuals to examine these narratives critically by asking questions about how risk is framed within their communities. Prevention professionals can help participants recognize how cultural expectations influence their decisions about gambling behavior. And then, finally, the digital gambling environment. The modern gambling environment is dramatically different from what existed even a decade ago. Historically, gambling activities required individuals to travel to specific locations, such as a racetrack or a casino. These physical boundaries created natural limitations on access and frequency of play. Today, those limitations have largely disappeared. Mobile betting applications also allows individuals to place wagers instantly from their phones. These platforms operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all day, all night, meaning that gambling opportunities are constantly available regardless of time or location. In addition to increased accessibility, digital gambling platforms also use sophisticated marketing strategies designed to encourage continued engagement. Algorithms analyze user behavior and deliver targeted advertisement that promotes specific betting opportunities. Promotional features such as boosted odds, free bets, or limited time offers create a sense of urgency that encourages immediate participation. Sports broadcasting has become closely integrated with betting platforms. Viewers watching games may see real-time odds, updates, commentators' discussions about betting lines, and advertisements encouraging participation through mobile applications. These messages normalize gambling behavior by presenting it as a routine part of the sports viewing experience. From a prevention standpoint, the digital environment significantly expands the number of moments when individuals encounter gambling cues. Prevention programs must therefore adapt to this new landscape by helping individuals recognize how these systems are designed to capture attention and encourage participation. Understanding the structure of the digital gambling environment allows prevention professionals to equip communities with strategies for navigating these influences more intentionally. It is important to recognize that gambling behavior rarely occurs in isolation from broader social and economic conditions. Individuals do not make decisions with a vacuum. Their choices are shaped by the environment in which they live. Economic insecurity is one of the most significant factors influencing gambling vulnerabilities. When individuals experience financial stress or limited economic mobility, gambling may appear to be offering a potential opportunity for financial change. Even though the statistical probability of winning remains low, the emotional appeal of a sudden financial breakthrough can be powerful during times of hardship. Communities that face systematic economic challenges may also encounter increased exposure to gambling marketing. Research has shown that gambling advertising and promotional efforts often target areas where residents experience economic stress or limited financial opportunities. These targets message reinforce the perception that gambling may provide a pathway towards financial improvement. Access to behavioral health resources also plays a key role in shaping gambling outcomes. Communities with limited access to mental health support may struggle to address early signs of gambling harm. Without supportive interventions, individuals may continue gambling until the consequences become severe. Prevention professionals must therefore consider how structural factors influence gambling vulnerabilities. Effective prevention strategies combine individual education with broader conversations about economic resilience, mental health awareness, and community support networks. When prevention acknowledges these contextual factors, it becomes more compassionate and more effective at addressing the underlying conditions that contribute to harmful gambling behavior. In our next slide, we will have a brief video from the Roots 101 African American Museum located in Louisville, Kentucky, next to the Yum Center. And this is the curator and founder of it, Mr. Lamont Collins. And Project Richochet has our barbershop and beauty salon initiative showcased within the barbershop. And within that showcase, we have our Bet on You campaign. And they've done a wonderful job showcasing it, and we've gotten some great reviews. Matter of fact, this is an image from one of the slot machines that they've installed there. It's a miniature slot machine. It's not a real one, but it's like a toy. But it also has all the literature and some other historical games that people have played throughout the years.
Hey everybody, Lamont Collins, founder and CEO of Roots 101 African American Museum located in Louisville, Kentucky. It's that time of year where we get to partner again with Project Richochet. And today we're talking about gambling and the history of gambling in our community. It's a bet on you. That's right. Bet on you and reclaim your power. We know the addiction of gambling and what it does to our community, but do you know the history of gambling? See, gambling really started a long time ago in the black community. It started 3000 BC in Africa. Parts of Africa and continents of Africa, they found actual dice, had dots on each side to show that it was used as a gambling proposition. But from history to now, even in America, they separated gambling for black communities and white communities. That's black community created something called a numbers game, where they ran numbers throughout the neighborhood in order for the community to raise dollars to build schools and to help churches and all those things in our community. Before the addiction, it was to help a community. And today we need to learn to help a community again. It's bet on you, reclaim your power. We see sports games today have people getting in trouble for getting tied into sports. But at Roots 101, we don't want to talk about the destruction of sports. We want to talk about defeating the addiction of gambling. There's a game called chess. If you remember, the Black Panthers used this as a board and game as the way to teach young people. And the first thing they told young people in the chess game, the first piece moves is the white piece. So it means the black community has to learn strategies in order to win the game. And what I'm trying to show you today is we have to learn to work together, and we have to learn strategy over destruction. This is Lamont Collins, Roots 101, African American Museum. Legacies matter, and so do you.
So, the importance, let me turn this off and back down for people online. And by the way, for those folks that are online, if you would like to comment or provide feedback, we really appreciate it. And so you can do that in the chat place there online. So this is the thing about getting folks like Mr. Lamont Collins and one-on-one to the table is, again, when we talk about incorporating
Yeah, the campaign purpose to raise awareness about the risk of gambling misuse and addict. Well, I know it's on both screens. I have to take my glasses off. And this is to promote mental health, resilience, and culturally grounded healing across youth, veterans, minority, and low-income communities in Kentucky. So the core message here is our empowerment, awareness, connection, and cultural relevance. This program really has a direct message to our people. When we're engaging with our people, these are the things we need to be asking. These are the things that we're engaging with. And it happens actually with boots on the ground in our barbershops and in our beauty salons. Sometimes when we have our events, we may have 5 different health providers there at the same time, whether it's blood pressure screening, whether it's checking a colonoscopy, breast cancer awareness. Obviously, we're talking about gambling, addictions, and prevention. All of those things are so key. So not only that, we want to make sure that betting on yourself is the ultimate win. That is one of the things I tell people all the time. You may want to bet on the Wildcats. You may want to bet on Louisville Cardinals. You may want to bet on the LA Lakers, right? But those guys have their money, all right? Where you're taking a risk with your own money, and you need to bet on yourself, and you need to bet on yourself big to not get into those predicaments where you're having a social determinant of health, right? Whether it's a high blood pressure risk, that is something that, I do personally when people walk into the barbershop or beauty salon. I check their blood pressure. We have blood pressure monitors as well as a weight scale in each one of our barbershops and beauty salons, along with a table full of other goodies like condoms for sexual health awareness. We have Narcan. We have all those things in our stations in our barbershops and beauty salons. Well, when I talk to a person and they know they're coming in there to check their blood pressure, they'll say, well, I know it's going to be high. And I say, well, why is it going to be high? How do you know it's going to be high? Well, I didn't take my blood pressure medicine today. So now that's a trigger for me to engage, to say, oh, really? You didn't take it this morning? You didn't take it? Why did you not take it? Well, either they didn't have the money to buy their medicine because they say, I'm out of the medication, I need to pick some up. Well, why you? And so now it kind of cascades into conversation and actually check it, and guess what? It's high. So they know they need to do something about it. Same thing with the gambling, right? You hear a person talking about they have to make their bets. Like, really? You have to? Like, why do you have to? So those are the conversations that get in there, and that sometimes is hard questions. And sometimes they don't want to tell it. Sometimes they do. They don't have a problem telling you. I got a problem, man. I'm doing this every day. I'm like, okay. So now we have that discussion. The Bet on You campaign overview. Dr. El-Amin. Screen. Yeah, this is another prime example of the barbershop and beauty salon initiative. For the language and examples have to match the norms. So when I walk in and I talk to anybody in the barbershop, I'm not going to talk to them like I would in academia world, right? It's really, hey, the same language you speak in the hood. I was raised in the hood, so I know the language. But one of the things about RPCs and other parts of Kentucky, our beautiful Commonwealth, is you may not speak that language. You might not understand Appalachian. You might not understand being in one of the hollers, right? But I tell them all the time, I'm one of the good old Kentucky boys. I can talk any language there is in Kentucky. So we can speak the language. Context matters more than content. And then trust. It's greater than the credentials, the messenger, credibility. That's really what drives everything. Because it's how you come in, right? I think somebody talked about it earlier about how you look, how you appear, the language you speak. All that makes you trusted. And we're bridging that gap between the community and the medical community. So, boundaries and referrals, ethics.
So one of the things that is very important.
All right. This is where you guys get to participate. So, in this scenario, when you hear this, I want to hear some feedback from you guys. What do you do when you hear, I just need one good win?
How do you handle it with one of your participants or clients?
Not what I'm thinking, but what I would say to them.
Mm-hmm.
My initial thought is one is never enough, but I'm not sure I would say that to a client.
I just walked in. I just need one good win.
How has that played out in the past?
Okay. All right.
Underlying circumstances, make them feel that one good win would help set them to a higher standards or fix their problem.
How about everybody bets? It's normal. Everybody does it. Go ahead, say it.
I jumped off a bridge.
Right.
Probably not anything else.
Okay. I can stop anytime. I can stop anytime. There it is. Okay. I like that. I like that.
Tell me about your stopping.
Right.
When did it happen?
Right. Sports betting isn't real gambling. Mm. So all of these things, we want to do what? We want to identify the risk. We want to really want to practice response, especially with that last one about sports betting, right? Because we need to prepare for that and decide when to refer. So those are the things that makes it very, very important. I know we're going to be running a little on time, so we're going to move it along.
So implementation and scaling and
Your Creed by Langston Hughes. I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one any day. I'd rather one should walk with me than just to show the way. The eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but examples are always clear. And the very best of teachers are the ones who live their creed. For to see good put into action is what everybody needs. I can soon learn to do it if you let me see it done. I can watch your hands in motion, but your tongue too fast may run. And the lectures you deliver may be very fine and true, but I'd rather get my lessons by observing what you do. I may misunderstand you and the fine advice you give, but there's no misunderstanding how you act and how you live.
I love it. So these are some of the resources that we share that are also in the Better On You resource guide. And then also our resources and references. And then we just wanted, I know we have like literally 15 seconds for questions and reflections. So we'd like to at least hear from a couple of you.
And even online, if you're online, please put in the comments and we can get your questions.
Any questions? Any reflections? All right, well, with that being said, thank you so much. And you can always stay in touch with us at El-Amin at projectricochet.org or qmarks@projectricochet.org. Thank you so much.